Hi y'all, I'm going to be doing some chicken and noodles tonight for dinner. I'm gonna do the chicken, get it prepped, and I'm gonna make homemade noodles. So um, let me get started. I have 4 chicken breasts. Get a knife. So I can cut that open. Okay. Take these over to the sink and rinse them really good. I'll be right back. Okay, so my chicken breasts are still frozen on the back side, but that's okay because when I put them in this pot over here, right here, and get them boiling, they should be fine. They should go ahead and cook. So I'm going to take this big mixing bowl of water, and I don't believe it has a measuring, but I'm just going to pour this in here, and I want enough to cover the 4 chicken breasts. It's a 14 cup pitcher. I couldn't see it because the water was in there, but this is 14 cups. Okay, so there's 3 chicken breasts in here. I thought it was 4, and that's fine. There are 3 skinless, boneless chicken breasts, and I'm going to go ahead and place each one of these inside the water. I'm going to put them down where the frozen side's down so that starts to thaw faster. Wash my hands. I don't like handling chicken without thoroughly washing my hands. Okay, and so I'm going to turn that up on high, and I'm going to go ahead and let that start boiling. I'll put the lid on it so that starts getting cooked. When it reaches a rapid boil, I'll turn it down. But in the meantime, while the chicken is starting to heat up, I'm going to add some salt to it later, but I'm not going to do it at this moment. Okay, so right now I'm going to make some homemade egg noodles. When I was a little girl, my mom used to make chicken and noodles. We called them dumplings, but she used to do them in different ways. But these are egg noodles, and I'm gonna make those for you. So first, I'm gonna need, let me get a bowl, a mixing bowl, and I'm gonna need 2½ cups of all-purpose flour. Okay, wow. Alrighty. So I have went ahead and measured 2½ cups of all-purpose flour. So I'm gonna put this in here. Hang on a second. Make sure that's I don't like dust being in my food, so if there's any way that any dust could be in it from the last time I used it and washed it, I always like to rinse it out. Just make sure we don't get any extra dust in there that can get in the cabinets. It's truly amazing how that can happen if the cabinet doors are all shut, but somehow it does. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and add 2½ cups of flour. Let me get my mixer. I'll be adding some other dry ingredients in there, so I want to make sure I have my whisk. Okay, so it's going to call for a pinch of salt. So when they say a pinch, they literally mean a pinch. I'm going to set this aside a second, and I'm going to bring over the 2 eggs that I'm going to beat my eggs. Now, one thing that you can do when you with your eggs is there's a trick on to tell if the egg is still good. You just fill up a glass of water deep enough for the egg to go to the bottom of the glass. If it goes all the way to the bottom and stays down there, your egg is still good. If it floats to the top, throw it out. If it goes in the middle somewhere, it's going bad. So that's how you can tell if your eggs are still good. I learned that growing up. As a child, we had our own chickens. So that's one. I usually break up my eggs. Let's see, let me break this up in a separate bowl. The reason I do that is because you just want to make sure you have 2 good eggs. And there's nothing in there that you don't want to have in your mix. So because those are both okay, I'm going to go ahead and put those together, and I'm going to beat those. I'm just going to take a fork, and I'm going to beat the eggs. First I'm going to break the yolks so that they're easier to, and I just kind of beat them till it's all pretty much mixed. Kind of like when you're making scrambled eggs. So you just make sure that it's blended well. Okay, so 2 beaten eggs, and then we're going to add I'm going to go ahead and add the milk. There's a 1/2 cup of milk is the next ingredient. So that's a 1/2 cup. You can see it on the cup. So I'm going to go ahead and add that to the eggs. Makes it easier for everything liquid to be blended together. That way you're not trying to do them separate, because then once you put it in the flour, it's better to have it all blended together. Okay, and then so I'm going to go ahead and add see how the eggs and the milk go together, so it's like all one liquid, so it makes it easier when you pour it into the flour. So I'm making a little hole in the middle, as you can see, just like a little nest that I'm putting in the center, so I can pour the eggs into the center of that with the milk. And now I'm going to add the tablespoon of regular butter. I'm going to add that in the middle. Butter on there. This is what helps hold it together. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to start mixing this. I'm just going to start bringing it to the middle, into the liquid. Just kind of incorporating the liquid in with the flour. Just kind of mixing it. So you're not throwing flour everywhere. You want to do this a little bit slow. Scraping some of the sides, bringing it back down. So basically what you're going to end up with is a dough ball. An eggy dough ball. Keep blending and keep mixing, and you see it's starting to form a little bit. You just want to keep bringing in the flour into the mixture, scraping the bottom and the sides, getting it all blended well. You want to get this all off the spoon, back into the mixture. I'm going to keep messing with it, and it's going to start sticking, like get real sticky. So that's good, because that's what you want it to do. Because you're going to pour it out on a floured surface, and we're going to roll all the noodles out. So right now you see it's starting to make a ball form. You just want to keep mixing it until it gets all mixed together, because you want to be able to have it in one single ball, and you want it to kind of clean the bowl when you get it all mixed together. There's not going to be anything left in the bottom. And it's going to stop eventually sticking to your fingers like it did. It's not going to be as tacky. Let me wash this up. Okay, so basically, I now have a ball. See, it's kind of just, I can literally pick it up now. And the bowl is pretty clean. So that's where you want it to get. And I'm going to put this over there. And I'm going to set that there a second. I'm going to sprinkle a little flour. Just a bit. So that I can put this in there. I can add just a little bit of flour to my hand so it's not sticking to me. And I can make a ball. So now, I'm going to blend this a little better. Get this a little better. This a little more. Oops. Knead it just a little bit. So you have more elasticity in them. So they hold together well. Keep pushing it in a ball. Keep pushing it out. Making a ball. So as you can see, if you tear off a piece, oops, see, it's still coming apart. Not enough elasticity in there. Not enough gluten in those noodles. Make it a little more elastic. Now let's check it. It's still tearing apart. A little more flour. Down in the middle. This is a workout. Okay, let's do a test. Okay, so you'll pinch off a piece, and then when you pull it apart, you can see that it's starting to stick together. See, it's not like just tearing apart now. That's kind of where you want it to get. Maybe just a little bit more. Whew, who needs to go to the gym, right? So you want to, let's test it again. Let's pinch a piece off. And you want to pull. Make it a ball, flatten it out, and you want to pull on it. You see how that stays together now? That's that's where you want your noodles to be, so they don't just fall apart when they're inside the water cooking. So that looks pretty good. So I'm gonna set that down. Cut this in half. Actually, that was a little more than half on that side, so I'm going to add you. To the other side. Okay, both of them were about the size of, it's about the size of a baseball. Maybe just a little bit bigger. Not quite the size of a softball. Okay, so I've got both of these I'm gonna flour my board. So my dough doesn't stick. I'm gonna flatten it out. Turn it over. Get my rolling pin. Put some flour on it. And start rolling. Let me move you over. Start rolling these out. Get these a little flatter. Move that out of the way. My cutting board keeps moving, making it complicated to pressure on this rolling pin. Keeps sliding on me. Okay. Okay. Let's get that back a little bit so I can work on this side a little more. Doesn't have to be perfectly shaped, just kind of spread out a little bit so you can cut. The noodles don't have to be the perfect size. So I've got them kind of spread out there. And now I'm going to take a knife. I'm going to start cutting strips. So you just start on the side. And you just start cutting. So your first strip's going to be a little funky because it's like on a rounded edge, but you can kind of make a smaller one. And then you just start cutting. Cutting strips. You can cut them as thick or as thin as you like. I usually try to go with like at least a 1-inch noodle. For the most part. Sometimes they get a little narrower on me, but the thing is they will get bigger as you go. You can hear the chicken boiling. That's good. Okay. And then in these pieces like this, you can just kind of stretch it just a little bit before you drop it in there. Just kind of gives it a little more length. These, they're this size right here. Can actually cut in half if you don't want a noodle that long. But if you don't mind, I just cut them in half. Because I want noodles basically that long, and they'll shrink up in there. So they're going to shrink up. So I just start cutting the noodles. I'll cut all the way through. And see, they get longer and longer. And the ones that are this long, I just cut. That can be cut in thirds. When they get toward the center where they get a little longer, and see how funky that is? It's a little wonky. That's okay. So we're just going to stretch that out. And this one is a perfect size noodle. Ha! Some of them are good, some of them are a little longer. That's okay. Either way, they're going to get fatter inside there. They'll actually plump up inside the chicken broth. When you drop them in, they'll get thicker. So no matter how, oops, that one broke. Push it back together. Stretch it a little bit on this end. So that's what I was talking about. You want your dough to be where you can stretch it. So you can like elongate it, like pull just a little bit. And if you don't want to cut it, you can tear it. Just tear them. And sometimes that's what I do. I'll just tear them because it doesn't matter if the ends are perfectly cut or if they're jagged. And this is just half of that. So I'm going to do the other part the same way I did these. But I was just working with half the dough. This one we're going to leave a little longer because I can. This one's really long. See? Long, and we're going to cut it. So we're going to find a space to grab it and just cut. Just pull it. These are fun. I'm going to leave that one long. Sometimes they're fun to have longer noodles. Sometimes they're fun to have shorter noodles. But you just kind of work it. It's actually like playing with Play-Doh. So, just think, girls and guys, when we were children, we were actually learning how to cook when you were playing with Play-Doh. Because you made things. That's kind of neat. Okay, I smell that chicken is really boiling. Now, and the chicken's all white. And I can stick a fork in it on the bottom. Not frozen no more. I think I'm going to let it cook just a little bit longer. It's not quite. I did a fork test and you can tell when the meat is cooked, the fork will sink in pretty easily without a problem, and you can just stick the fork in and tear it and the meat will tear. That meat wasn't tearing yet, so it's not ready. So we're going to just keep piling up the noodles. So you get a plate full of them. These are going to be great in that with that chicken. Ooh, that one tore. So sad, Charlie. I'll put you back together. Oops. Okay. It's going to be a wonky noodle. You don't want to stay together. We're going to smush him back together. Okay, there we go. The ones shorter on the sides are a little harder to pull because they've thinned out more than the stuff in the middle. Stuff in the middle is thicker. Okay. So I'm going to get a plate. And set all these noodles on this plate. See that? So there's our first grouping of noodles. Get some more flour. I'm going to take this second dough ball. Lighten it a little bit. Oops. And drop it on yourself. We're going to make it like a little disc. Turn it over. We're going to start pulling it out. Okay, so we're going to keep rolling the dough out. keeps slipping. I'm gonna have to get me one with rubber feet. So it stops sliding on me. Either I'm gonna have to put rubber feet on this one. Oops, sorry. Okay, we're gonna start cutting this one. Okay, might be easier if I use this. Wow, that's way easier. Way easier than the knife. If you get one too thick, you could actually cut it down again. Like I said, I like them, some of them kind of thick. I mean, you could do them thinner. Okay, we'll stretch it. And I'm going to go ahead and finish these, and I'll be right back with you. Okay, so I'm back, and I'm going to continue cutting these noodles and stretching them. And check on that chicken again. This one I may cut a little thinner, like it needed to be thin. This one can be stretched out. And it doesn't matter what size your noodles are, because they're all going to be different sizes, because they're not made from the factory. They're homemade, and they're really good. So much better for you because they're natural ingredients that are in here. So you don't have all the preservatives and all the stuff that goes with the store-bought noodles. So it's better for you. Way more fun to make than opening up a bag. These are a lot of fun. It takes, you know, it can be a therapy, cooking therapy. Some of these get really long. Oh, I see it tore. That's good. I'll be right back. Hold on. Okay, let's see. I'm going to continue. I'm going to finish these. Stretching and stretching, and sometimes they'll get 15-20 inches long, depending on how much you roll your dough out. And if you get them, and they're about 1/4 of an inch thick, so that's about where you want them. Because they won't be this thin when you get them in the broth. And that's why you want to work your dough so that when you're pulling on it, it doesn't fall apart. You want them to be able to be stuck together and like able to, not just tear apart easy. So they stretch, and they can get pretty thin. You can almost see the light through them when you're stretching them. You can just feel where it's a little thicker, and you can pull a little more on that part where you feel it's thicker, and that one tore. That's fine. Sometimes they just want to give up and just give a break. Okay, so you want them, you know, different lengths. And it's okay to be different lengths. This one I'm going to leave a little thicker because I can pull it and thin it out some. That one tore. I'll tear it again. These are really good. Like I said, my mom used to make them. She used to make them for dinner. She used to make them for Thanksgiving and Christmas. Sometimes my mom would just make a big pot of just dumplings with chicken broth. And she didn't put any chicken in it. It would just be like a side dish, just the noodles. And she'd do chicken and noodles for Thanksgiving and Christmas. It was not uncommon for us to have that, as well as the turkey and the ham and everything that we had together. So this was just another dish that she'd whip up. It would be just amazing because you could have some noodles on your plate, or a small bowl, you know, along with the rest of your food, your turkey and stuff. Well, last one. I'll cut him in half. It's not so thick. This one. Okay. Kind of butchered him a little bit. We're going to just pull it together. Kind of cut him in two places, but just stretch it. You feel it stretching when you're pulling. And you're not going to mess up. You're really not. You're going to, it doesn't matter if your noodles look like this, okay? Just, if they come apart, just stick them back together. Even if they're ugly and they look like that, it doesn't matter. They're going in the broth, and they're going to make noodles, so they don't have to be pretty. Here, I'll even throw in a little weird round one. Okay, so let me check the chicken. Ow, it's hot. Take that lid off. Let me get it. Pot holder, that's really hot, and that is coming out that side. Let me check that real quick. Ooh, that is definitely hot. Let's see what we're doing in there. Looks like, okay, I'm able to stick the fork into the chicken. Now let me twist. Hang on. Let me put that back down in there. Let me get a plate. Let me grab that piece of chicken again. Okay, I'm able to stick the fork in it, so that's a good sign. Now my other way I check it is I put it in and I twist. If that pulls apart like that, you see how that's done? That chicken is cooked all the way through. Do you see it's white? Like, well, now there's some pink, see? That's not quite as done. So you're going back in there for a little bit longer. I don't want to see pink. Let that cook a little longer. And I think I'm going to add some salt. doing that. Let me add a couple of teaspoons of salt to that water. So that it's got a little bit of seasoning. And then later I'm going to add some pepper to it. So let me get rid of this stuff. Let me wash my hands. Lid back on. I heard from some of my family in Oklahoma that they're getting snow. And I feel like really bad because I have my AC on. I have my air conditioner running today, and it's necessary. Ooh, I think I just got flour all over me. Hey, grandson.
Hey, Grandma.
How are you?
Good.
Come here.
What?
Come here. Say hi.
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 Say I'm Grandma's grandson.
I'm Grandma's grandson.
I love you. Grandma's doing a video right now, okay?
I love you too, yeah?
Okay, go see Papa.
Okay.
Have my grandson this weekend. Okay. Let's stick this over here. Ooh, I got a whole bunch of dishes to do when I get done. Okay, so I'm gonna set this out here. I feel like I got dough under my fingernails still. Yuck. Okay. I think that's good. Normally, when I make chicken and noodles, I'll make like mashed potatoes to go along with it. But I don't have any potatoes here at the moment to make mashed potatoes. I need to go to the market and get some. But so anyway, that's quite a few, and that's going to be a lot in here. Now, I'm probably going to take the chicken out when it's done, and I'm going to put it on a plate, and I'm going to break it all up, and I think I'm going to let that cook just a little bit, and then I'm going to come back. I'm going to tear the chicken up on the plate, and then I'm going to show you how I put the noodles in. So I'll be back in just a minute. Okay, so I'm back, and I'm going to move the noodles over, and I'm going to try to get this chicken out. Ooh, that is hot. Get my tongs. Very, very hot. Take this out, let it cool a little bit so I can touch it, because I have to tear it up. Okay. Those are nice and done. So I'm going to set those aside real quick, and I'm going to bring the noodles back over. I'm going to add 1 Swanson's chicken broth, 48 ounces in here. Ooh, don't slosh on me. I forgot to puncture the other side. Hang on a second. Okay, so let me make a puncture. That's a little hole, air hole, so it can pour without sloshing now. It won't glug and slosh. There we go, it's sloshing me and burning. Because there was only 3 chicken breasts, it didn't make as much broth. So I'm adding one of those to it, so it'll have plenty of broth for my noodles. Okay, I'm going to raise that back up to high. Get that boiling again, because I just cooled down the liquid from adding the broth to it. So let me do a taste test here. Just a little bit more salt. Okay, so I'm going to add some salt, a little bit, another teaspoon. I don't want to add too much because you don't want to oversalt, because you can never remove, you can always add. And I'm going to add a teaspoon of pepper. Stir that in there. I'm going to add a teaspoon of minced onions. teaspoon of onion powder. Maybe we're just going to add a half a teaspoon. Let's just add a half. I don't want to put too much of that in there with those onions. And then I need some parsley flakes. Let's do a teaspoon of parsley flakes. I want to get this water boiling again. Or the broth now. It's broth that's in there too, not just water. Taste. Oh, yummy. Okay, we're doing good so far. So I need to get this rapid bowling. Again, I need to put the lid on there. Keep that on high so this can get hot again. It's got to really get hot because when I stick the noodles in, they're going to start cooking. Okay. Let me see if this chicken has cooled down enough where I can touch it. Yes, okay. So you just start pulling the chicken apart. Some of this is going to be super duper hot. Oh yeah, it's still steaming. So, yeah, that's pretty hot. Okay, I'm going to give that a minute to cool off a little bit. Still very, very hot. But you want to tear it, when you start tearing your chicken, you want to start tearing it in chunks, like this, nice bite-size pieces. Not too little. But pieces big like this, you just tear. You just shred it. Okay. I'm going to give that a minute to keep cooling down. Some of this is cooling down some, so I'm going to start tearing what I can. Some of it is super hot. And my Yorkie's looking at me. She loves...
You're my baby soda. Oh my goodness, is that good?
She loves chicken, so I dropped her a piece. Okay, so you just want to tear strips, like bite-sized pieces, so it goes good with your noodles. Doesn't have to be too little or too big, you just start tearing it. To where it's something like if you were to put a noodle in your mouth with a piece of chicken, you know, how big a piece would you want it to be? So basically, like this. Are you back in here?
Yeah.
What you doing? Are you being
Dun,
silly?
dun, 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 dun.
Okay, we'll go see Grandpa, okay? All right. Okay. Go into his room. He likes to stop by and see what Grandma's doing. He's like his grandpa. He likes to watch me cook or work, as they say.